Let's look at the basic process for the Blazor server-side scenario. The first time that a user types in a URL in the browser's address bar, or when a page is refreshed, the browser sends an HTTP request to the server. The server responds with HTTP responses that contain images, styling, and everything else that is needed for the page to be displayed in the browser. In the case of Blazor Server, there is one extremely important file that is sent to the browser as part of this HTTP response, and that file is a JavaScript file called blazor.server.js. This file helps the browser set up a SignalR connection to the remote server. In this context, SignalR would probably be a WebSocket connection, but as an aside, SignalR can also refer to an ASP.NET Core code library that simplifies the development of real-time web functionality for your web applications. And as I mentioned in part 1, online chats are typically used as the example to illustrate the use of SignalR, and of course, I said we can do a whole lot more. SignalR can be used in a variety of web applications where high-frequency updates are required from the remote server. SignalR uses the WebSockets transport mechanism when available, but can fall back to older transports when necessary. Now, you don't really need to understand any of that. I'm just mentioning it here for completeness' sake. It is this SignalR connection that makes the communication between the browser and the server in a Blazor Server application seem near real time. The binary messages that contain the user interface changes or the UI differential data is what is communicated through this SignalR channel. And only the changes to the UI are sent back to the browser, not an entire newly constructed HTML page. Any action like a button click that is performed by the user on the client side, or any other event that requires that the UI be changed, will be communicated by blazor.server.js on the client side to the server via the SignalR connection. The server will process this information, determine the updates that are required to be made to the user interface, and return the UI update or the UI change data back to blazor.server.js, again via the SignalR connection. This in turn will enable the browser to update the UI. Now, before we can go into any further discussions about UI and rendering, we have to cover something called the Document Object Model, or DOM, and another related concept called RenderTrees. The DOM and the manipulation of the DOM is at the heart of this rendering conversation.